Most of the honey sitting on American store shelves is imported, and the Food and Drug Administration has quietly decided that almost none of it has to be real honey at all. The agency wrote a letter years ago admitting that ultra-filtered, pollen-stripped honey isn't even honey, and then did almost nothing to keep it off your shelf. So here's where that leaves you. In 2011, independent lab testing of grocery store honey found that more than 3/4 of it had every trace of pollen filtered out. The one thing that proves where honey actually came from. They stripped out the pollen on purpose. Today we're walking through 5 honey brands you should never put in your cart, and 3 that are actually the real thing. If you're tired of being lied to, smash subscribe. You're going to want to share this one. Here's the thing about honey. There is no real federal standard forcing the stuff in that bear-shaped bottle to be what it claims. The FDA put out a letter saying ultra-filtered honey is not honey, but it never wrote that into an enforced rule. So packers do whatever they want and slap the word pure on the front. Why would anyone filter the pollen out of honey? Because pollen is a fingerprint. It tells a lab whether your honey came from a wildflower field in Montana or a factory overseas. Take the pollen out and the trail goes cold. And get this, that's exactly the point. Ultrafiltration heats the honey, sometimes waters it down, and forces it through filters fine enough to erase its own birth certificate. That's a loophole. That's how cheap, adulterated, antibiotic-laced imported honey gets relabeled and sold to you at a premium. Now let's name names. The first one is sitting in almost every Walmart in America, and it costs next to nothing. Great Value Pure Honey. Look at the ingredient list. It says one word, honey. Sounds great, right? Now look at what's missing. There's no country of origin you can trust, no raw, no unfiltered, nothing that tells you this honey still has its pollen. That matters because in 2011, when independent labs tested store brand honey exactly like this, the vast majority of it had been ultra filtered until no pollen remained. And the FDA's own position is that pollen-free ultra filtered honey isn't honey, or they don't check the shelf. Here's the kicker on the health side. Honey that's been heated and ultra filtered loses the live enzymes and pollen-bound antioxidants that made it worth eating. A 2020 review in the journal, Antioxidants found raw honey retains far more polyphenol content than commercially processed honey. You're paying $2.98 for a bare bottle of pasteurized sugar water with the word pure, doing all the heavy lifting. When the cheapest honey in the store won't tell you what country it came from, that's not a bargain. That's fake honey hiding behind a price tag. Number 4 is one your mother probably trusted. Sous Bee, made by the Sioux Honey Association, which calls itself America's largest honey supplier. And here's the part that should make you pause. Back in the same 2011 investigation, reporters asked Sioux Honey point blank whether their honey was ultra filtered and where their foreign honey came from. They declined to answer repeatedly. Look at the ingredient list and you'll see honey, but look at the bottle and you'll often see US and imported, which means honey from who knows where, mixed together and untraceable. For a co-op that wraps itself in red, white, and blue branding, that silence on filtration speaks volumes. The real kicker is the price. You're paying around $4.98 for the comfort of a familiar label, not for proof of what's inside. In Europe, removing the pollen from honey is banned outright under EU Directive 2001/110. They treat pollen-stripped honey as adulterated, just not here. When a brand that big won't answer a simple question about filtration, you have to ask what they're not saying. Number 3 is where this stops being theory. Grube Farms was once the largest industrial honey supplier in the country, packing honey that ended up under store brands, in food service and on grocery shelves nationwide. In 2013, Grube Farms entered a deferred prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors, paid a $2 million fine, and admitted its role in buying mislabeled Chinese honey to dodge import duties. This was the federal sting they called Project Honeygate. Investigators found more than 1,500 shipping containers of Chinese honey routed through other countries, sometimes declared as sugar, to sneak past tariffs. Some of that honey was adulterated with antibiotics not even approved for honey in the United States. And here's what should bother you most. That honey didn't stay in a warehouse. It went into the supply chain, into bottles people bought trusting the label. When a company that size has to pay millions and promise to throw away its Chinese honey, you stop calling it a food company and start calling it what it was, an operation that was robbing you blind one squeeze bottle at a time. If this is already saving you from a bad shop, do me a favor and hit subscribe. We publish one of these every week. Number 2 is the honey you don't even think about. Those little single serve packets in squeeze portions from the big shelf stable packers. In that 2011 testing, 100% of the single-serve in honey from major food service brands had every trace of pollen removed. All of it. Untraceable, every single packet. Look at the ingredient list and it says honey. Look at a lab report and it says we have no idea where this came from. That's the whole problem. Ultrafiltration doesn't make honey safer or better. It makes it anonymous, and anonymous honey is exactly what laundered honey wants to be. What makes this particularly galling is the health trade. Heating and ultrafiltering strips the enzymes, the trace pollen, and the antioxidant compounds. The stuff that separates honey from corn syrup in disguise. You're getting the sugar and almost none of the benefit. When the only thing left in your honey is sweetness, you've bought a sweetener wearing a honey costume. And the worst of the bunch, number one, is the cheap imported pure honey that floods discount shelves with no origin you can verify. This is the direct descendant of the laundering scandal. Shipments of Indian origin honey were banned in Europe over contamination with antibiotics, heavy metals, and a total lack of pollen. And a lot of that same untraceable product gets transshipped and sold here. Look at the bottle. Pure honey. No country, no pollen claim. A price too good to be true. That last part is the tell. Real honey from real beekeepers costs money. When a jug of honey costs less than bottled water, something has been added or something has been faked. And here's the kicker. You could skip this entire mess by finding raw local honey at your nearest farmer's market in 10 minutes for maybe $2 more. We'll put a sourcing guide in the description. Bottom line, the cheapest untraceable honey on the shelf is the most expensive mistake you can make, because it might not be honey at all. It might be flavored syrup that learned to lie. Now the good news, because real honey still exists and real beekeepers still make it. Number 3 on the real list is Crockett Honey Company out of Arizona, a family beekeeping operation that's been working hives across the Southwest for generations. The kind of outfit where the family name is on the jar because their reputation is in it. What actually works here, you can read on the label. Raw, U.S. sourced honey with the pollen left in. No ultrafiltration, no anonymous imported mix. When you can trace honey to a family's own hives, you get the enzymes, the local pollen, and the flavor that changes with the season, the things factory honey deliberately destroys. Longtime buyers consistently say it tastes the way honey is supposed to taste and that it crystallizes over time, which is a good sign. Real honey crystallizes. Ultra-filtered honey often won't. You'll find Crockett at regional grocers and direct online. Expect to pay more than the bare bottle, and that's the point. Number 2 is Witherspoon, the brand that built its name on New Zealand Manuka honey and on doing the one thing the bad guys refuse to do, prove where it comes from. Manuka is a premium honey from the Manuka bush, and Witherspoon traces and tests its honey rather than filtering its fingerprint away. Here's why it actually works. Look for their K-factor rating on the jar. It's a transparency standard tied to authentic, traceable, non-ultra filtered Manuka with the pollen left intact. That's the opposite of the pollen stripping game. You're paying for a honey whose origin is the entire selling point, not the thing being hidden. Fans on Reddit consistently call it the only Manuka they'll buy because the sourcing is documented instead of marketing fluff. And if this ranking is useful, hit the like button. It really helps the channel cut through the algorithm. You'll find Witherspoon at Whole Foods, Target, and online. It isn't cheap, but Manuka never is. And at least here you know what you're paying for. And the best of the bunch, number 1, is YS Eco Bee Farms out of Sheridan, Illinois, built on 4 generations of hands-on beekeeping. In 1995, while the rest of the industry was perfecting the art of filtering honey into anonymity, this family did the opposite. They became one of the first in North America to produce certified organic honey, and they staked the whole company on purity. What actually works is right there on the label, almost defiant in its simplicity. Raw, unfiltered, unpasteurized, certified organic honey with the pollen still in it and the live enzymes intact. No heat tricks, no ultrafiltration, no mystery imports. This is honey that still has its birth certificate. Buyers who've used it for years say it's the standard they judge every other jar against, and that you can taste the difference the second it hits your tongue. You'll find YS EcoBee Farms at health food stores and online for around $10 to $12 a jar. That's what real, traceable, pollen intact honey costs. And it's worth every penny. The honey aisle is a battlefield between an industry that profits from anonymity and you, the person actually reading the back of the jar, and the only weapon you've got is knowing what real honey looks like. On one side, cheap, untraceable imports and ultra-filtered store brands the FDA itself says aren't really honey. On the other, families like YS Eco Bee Farms, who left the pollen in on purpose. Remember the worst of what we saw, a federal laundering scandal that ended in millions in fines and Chinese honey relabeled to fool you. And remember the best, raw, organic, traceable honey from people who put their name on the jar. So here's the wisdom to take to the store. Read the label always. One ingredient is a start, but it's not enough. Look for the words raw, unfiltered, and a country of origin you can actually trust. If the only word on the front is pure, put it back. And if it costs less than bottled water, it's not honey, it's a story. Drop the honey brand you still trust in the comments. We're building the list with you. Hit subscribe if this changed how you shop today. We'll see you in the next aisle.